For a better understanding of statistic meaning, bear in mind that this word is used to express several different situations, fact, reports. Usually, the word statistic is used to nominate a set of numbers. In its earlier and still most common usage, statistic means a collection of numerical facts or data. The word statistic commonly brings to mind masses of numbers, graphs, and tables. So, in this lecture series, intend to explain meaning of statistic and the most important concept of descriptive and inferential statistic, such as central tendency measurements, dispersion measurements, correlation and regression, time series, and analysis of variances, so on. Why do people need to learn statistic? And why it is important? Today we can see data are everywhere. So different techniques in statistics are used to make many decisions that affect our lives. No matter what your career, you will make professional decisions that involve data. An understanding of statistical methods will help you make these decisions very effectively. So, applications of statistical concept in the business world widely spread in different areas such as finance, marketing, operations management, and so on. So, for example, in finance, to discuss the relationship between variables, correlation and regression are very important. For value forecasting, time series analysis, and index numbers to reflect price or quantity compared with a standard or base value are used. These are different statistical techniques which help us to make our decisions in different areas very effectively. Many more statistical tools in different areas can be represented as in marketing, hypothesis testing, chi-square test, non-parametric statistic, in operation management, hypothesis testing, estimation, analysis of variance, and again time series analysis. Right, in personal, hypothesis testing, chi-square test, non-parametric test. So, what is a statistic? There are many other definitions of statistics. Simply, it can be defined as the science of collecting, organizing, presenting, analyzing, and interpreting data to assist in making more effective decisions. And statistical analysis is used to manipulate, summarize, and investigate data so that useful decision making information results. In statistics, there are some key concepts which helps to explain statistics such as population, sample, parameter, and statistic. Let's discuss about these key concepts. A population is any specific collection of objects of interest. Otherwise, population refers to the collection of all elements possessing common characteristic that comprises universe. Usually populations are so large that a researcher cannot examine the entire group. Therefore, a sample is selected to represent the population in a research study. A sample is any subset or subcollection of the population. The process of selecting a sample from a particular population is called as sampling. A sample should have the same characteristic as the population it is representing. Sample can be with replacement or without replacement. With replacement means a member of population may be chosen more than once. For instance, picking the candy from the bowl. Without replacement defines a member of the population may be chosen only once. For instance, lottery ticket. Another two important terms in statistic are parameter and statistic. A measurable characteristic of a population, such as mean, median, standard deviation, is called as a parameters. But a measurable characteristic of a sample is called a statistic. Suppose we study a population and its mean we called as a parameter mean. And if we consider a sample, particular mean refers as mean statistic. The study of statistic can be categorized into main two types as descriptive statistic and inferential statistic. Descriptive statistic is method of organizing, summarizing and presenting data in an informative way. And inferential statistic is the method used to determine something about a population on the basis of a sample. Descriptive statistic gives information that describes the data in some manner. Prior to describe the data, it provides different methodologies to collect data. There are many methods used to collect or obtain data for statistical analysis. Three of the most popular methods are direct observation, experiments, and surveys. A graphical representation of data is another method of descriptive statistic. Example of these visual representation are bar graphs and pie graphs, histograms. Using these methods, the data is described by compiling into a graph, table, or other visual representations. To summarize data, there are central tendency measurement and dispersion measurement like mean, median, mode, variance, and standard deviation. Inferential statistics are method for using sample data to make general conclusions or inferences about the population. For example, estimate the population mean weight using the sample mean weight. Inference is the process of drawing conclusions or making decisions about a population based on the sample results. When study the diagram given here, it shows actually what people do in statistic. Sample is selected using appropriate sampling technique from considered population. As the number of elements in the population is greater amount and it takes very long time to analyze the population. So selected sample is analyzed and make inferences about the population. After studying basics of the statistic, let's discuss about variables. A variable is a characteristic or condition that can change or take on different values. And a constant is another term which has a fixed numerical value. The measurements obtained in a research study are called the data. The ultimate goal of statistics is to help researchers to organize and interpret the data. Statistical data are usually obtained by counting or measuring items. Let's move to types of data. Data can be mainly divided into two categories as qualitative data and quantitative data. Again, qualitative data can be classified as dichotomic and polynomic. Continuous and discrete are the two main categories of quantitative data. Let's move to qualitative data. Qualitative data are generally described by words or letters. They are not as widely used as quantitative data because many numerical techniques do not apply to the qualitative data. For example, it does not make sense to find an average hair color or average blood type. Qualitative data can be separated into two subgroups as dichotomic and polynomic. Dichotomic, if it takes the form of a word with two options, we call it a dichotomic data. For example, gender, marital status, when you consider gender, male or female, marital status, married or unmarried. Polynomic, if data takes the form of a word with more than two options, for example, education, primary school, secondary school, and university. We call it as polynomic data. Next one, quantitative data. Quantitative data are always numbers and are the results of counting or measuring attributes of a population. Quantitative data can be separated into two subgroups as discrete and continuous. If the data is the results of counting, we call this data as discrete data. For instance, the number of students of a given group in a class, the number of books on a shelf. Continuous data. If the data is the results of measuring, we call this data as continuous data. For example, distance traveled, weight of luggage, height of students. These are continuous data. Statistical data. The collection of data that are relevant to the problem being studied is commonly the most difficult, expensive, and time consuming part of the entire research project. So, statistical data are in two ways as primary data and secondary data. Primary data, that data collected by the investigator himself or herself for a specific purpose. As an example for primary data, data collected by a student for thesis or research project. Secondary data have already been compiled and are available for statistical analysis. As an example, census data being used to analyze the impact of education on career choice and earning.